Okay, so ZaChoeje. So we are here today to learn one of the greatest lessons of Buddha's teaching, which is actually called the courage of the Bodhisattva. And so mostly when we looked into the life of the Buddha, historical Buddha, like 2,500, I think more than 2,500 years ago, when Buddha came into this world, what actually he taught is he taught how to have this courage and confidence in yourself. And one of the biggest lessons that actually Buddha has learned from his all the efforts, not only from his one lifetime. Tibetan believes that he had went through like 3 limitless aeons. And if you talk about the 3 limitless aeons, it is just a very much mind-boggling time. Like what is what is one aeon actually? From a time point of view, one aeon is like maybe 1 trillion human years, I think. So limitless, 3 limitless aeons that we believe that Buddha went through searching for the things that actually he was looking for. And during this life as a Prince Siddhartha, that actually he found what actually he was looking for. And when he found this realization, or he found this, what he actually said was, this thing that I have been searching and I have been looking for is not actually out there. It is actually in here. And this is what we call the enlightened nature, Buddha nature. And you need courage to really look into yourself and face yourself, that also help you to gain this confidence, something that, yes, I will, or yes, I am able to get in touch, and yes, I am able to face my own truth. The truth, the realization is here. So that is why the courage of the Bodhisattva was actually one of the key teaching of the Buddha. And he taught that from his example of showing his life. Like if you look into the life story of Buddha, Buddha was a very courageous person. Very courageous. If you look into his, study his life story, what did he do? What actually he strived for, and what kind of practice he went through. And most of those practice, or what he was teaching from his action, was also, he was showing this courageous nature. And then, after Buddha teaching, then like throughout the century, there were many, many, many masters that actually went after what Buddha taught, and they put that into practice, like how Buddha did. And they actually had a courage to face themselves and face their own truth And then they gain this confidence and they have achieved the same realization that what Buddha has achieved. And from all these masters in the past, there is one very specific master that was actually the, one of the Buddha's disciple, I will say, even though he was not directly connected to the Buddha Shakyamuni, but he was actually from India, and during the 8th century, this master called Master Shantideva. And Master Shantideva actually studied in this greatest university of the all time in the Buddhist history, called the Nalanda. And Nalanda, actually was exist even during the time of Buddha, but not as an academic university or something. But later, like after 1st century, it becomes sort of like a monastic academic university to study like a Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist psychology. So many of the Buddhist teachings that what Buddha has taught and what many of the master has taught. So that become like the one of the, main source of learning and practicing Buddhism in the Buddhist history. So Master Shantideva, his actually life story was amazing. Actually, he was also from some like a royal family. Like, in those days, they used to have many small kingdoms all over. So he was one of the, from the royal family. And somehow, he actually want to search for this truth, that, like how Prince Siddhartha Gautama did. And he was searching for that. And finally, he thought Nalanda is the place that he should first study. And when he was studying in Nalanda, he was a very introverted kind of guy. And there was some funny stories about him. People really didn't like him much because he was very socially shy. Like he really didn't want to go out and talk to people. And he was not really like doing a lot of things that like many of the monks, they are supposed to do in the, that monastic academic, institute. And he was doing actually whatever they're required to do, but he was not socially, doing things. And then for many people's eyes, he was kind of like this, some people thought he was arrogant. Some people thought he was just lazy. And some people thought maybe he's sociopathic or something, So they even used to call him a name, like when he was in the Nalanda, when he was studying. And many, people sort of like monastic university is also a human university. There are many human beings live there. So, there is like all the human stuff, ordinary human stuff. And what happened was they called him Dushe Sumbawa, which means like that is the nickname. It's not a pet name. That's a bad name. Dushe Sumbawa means the one who only knows 3 things. Or one who does only 3 things. Eat, go to sleep, and go to toilet. So they used to call him that name. Like, everybody think like he's just like maybe, this person who doesn't want to come out. Maybe he thinks that he knows everything or whatever he's doing and things like that. But in all these things, he was very courageous that actually he never, fight back. Everybody is talking. It is just everybody is talking badly about him. And he really didn't want to show his, like he doesn't want to prove that he was right. So if I put it in a very simple language, he doesn't want to prove that he was doing something good, because that doesn't really, he was not there to impress people. He was there to study, right? So that was his not purpose of being there. Like, one thing that through his activity, through his action, what he was doing is he's saying, I'm not there to impress. I'm not the prisoner of what you think I should be doing. So I'm just doing whatever I think which is appropriate for myself, and I'm not harming anybody. He was not harming. He was just doing meditation or whatever. He just goes into his room and lock the door, and so nobody knows what he's doing in there. So because this three action guy, one person who knows only three things. And in the monastic university, they have an ancient tradition that when they come, like in a rotation, they had to do some teachings, like, in front of the group. So they have this one hall in one side of the Nalanda that it was occasionally, once a year, they actually, in rotation, there comes name after name. So some senior monk has to come and do the teaching. So that was his turn. And when his turn came, what happened was, because there are so many people not really liking him, so they want to sort of play things with him by, normally they put a, throne, but that time I think what they did was they kind of playfully sort of to actually make him embarrass. They put a little bit higher, higher throne, so that everybody can see. Because they know that, he might be a shy guy, or, he's maybe he's not good in public. So maybe they want to teach the, other rest of the other monks, maybe they should come and do the, whatever discussion, or, the social discussion things that, that they want to set up that example. But Shantideva, when he came, but there was some story that he did some magical thing that they, made the throne smaller or something. I don't know. I don't believe that kind of story. But I think whatever happened was actually they want to embarrass him by making a huge throne, but his presence, when he came and sit on the throne, before he was sitting on the throne looks so huge, right? It's not appropriate for, somebody who doesn't deserve that kind of high throne. But when he sit, it looks like it was totally appropriate for him, because his presence, because of his, whatever the spiritual energy that he had, when he sit on the throne, it fits perfectly. And just the charismatic of his spiritual energy, that actually nobody felt like, oh, that is inappropriate, kind of it is not high. So that actually happened, but then later people made a story saying that he put the hands on the throne and the throne went down. That's just kind of, maybe sometimes people wants to make it a little mysteriously kind of story kind of thing. But I think in reality, what happened was actually, in people's mind, it's appropriate. They felt like it, he deserved that. He deserved to be seen by everybody. So when he sit on the throne, and like usual, they do all the preliminary chantings and all this stuff, and then he start teaching. And he praised the Buddha first, he praised the Bodhisattva, and then he start, just graciously and slowly without really looking at any text. He was just sitting, and then he started saying. And what he was reciting was so like a poetic. Everything what he was saying was so poetic that it was all in like some, like the, what do you call, a talented writer can write. That's like in Indian Sanskrit language, like when they write, they have a very specific way of writing. When they are making a stanza, then like all the syllable counts, like a syllable counts, they're like, something like, like, that kind of syllable goes like, count is exactly. So that, he actually start teaching in that style. So it's not like, he wasn't teaching like a piece by piece kind of wood, but it was so precise and it was so clear, and whatever he was actually teaching was so soothing and to the point. As soon as he started, reciting what he was actually teaching, and everybody, first there was this little bit of noise, like they are talking like, oh, what is he gonna say? What is he gonna say? And then as soon as he started the teaching, and everybody sort of like the boiling water, putting some sort of like, ice in it, just like it just cooled down. Everything cooled, and everybody was so attentively listening. And what he taught at that time is called the Bodhisattva, a guide to the Bodhisattva way of life. Bodhisattva avatarana. So that was actually the text from that on, that text become like one of the major textbook in the Nalanda University that many of the masters and the students studied on that. So when he was actually, reciting that, so the guide to the Bodhisattva way of life, and mainly what he was teaching is actually, he was teaching this practice called the guide step by step, like a everyday life practice. So he was not really teaching something big. It was just like every day when we are living our life, how to really bring that Bodhisattva attitude, Bodhisattva practice, and how to really have a courage to live your life and face the daily problem, daily challenges without a sense of giving up to help other people. So I think that is called courage, right? It's like a never giving up attitude. It's just like no matter what happened, I already decided to help myself and help other people. When they say other, what is other means? Others, they're like from a number wise, there is no number. Like when you think of all sentient beings, think about all sentient being. As far as the space goes, right? As far as the space goes, the sentient beings, existed. It's not like a limited. Like if you think of the universe is what? Just infinite, right? It's like infinite space. And as far as our mind can go, that far our universe goes. As far as the space goes, that far. So where does the space stop? I used to play with this word. Like one time I was teaching about this universe thing, and we're having a sort of like a question and answer, and like somebody actually said that it is true. It is not his view. It is many scientifically people are saying that universe is expanding, right? Universe is expanding. So like there is like this big bang, and then universe keep expanding throughout the horizon. And so I was talking about this limitless space thing, and then the person said, these days scientists are saying that universe is expanding. What do you think, Rinpoche? And I said, I don't know what I think, but I have a question for that. Universe is expanding into what? Right? Universe is expanding into what? It is like almost saying space is expanding and space is expanding into space. Right? It's like universe is expanding into universe. So it just goes. So as far as the universe goes, sentient beings goes. So now courage come here, right? To help this one sentient being, how much courage you need, right? This simple life, this simple sentient being who call the person I, right? This me. And how much courage? Just to deal with one simple problem of one person. How much courage does it take to really want to help, to really, genuinely, sincerely wanting to help this? It takes a lot of courage. Now, we are talking about limitless sentient beings. So limitless sentient beings to help not only this person, and how far you want to help. As long as sentient beings remain. So how long the sentient beings are going to remain? From a time-wise. So now we talked about the space-wise. From the space-wise, it goes infinitely, right? It goes limitlessly. So now from time-wise, how far, how much time? I think, again, we will say infinitely limitless, right? So now, here comes the never give up attitude. Never, it says never. But we always say never, but here you should say never, right? Never give up, never giving up attitude. So that kind of attitude, what we call, is the Bodhisattva, courageous attitude. So that is why one of the very courageous prayer that Master Shantideva put in the Bodhisattva way of life was Jisi namka nebatang, drowa jisi ne yurba, tisi daja ne yuna, drowen dunge sevra sho. That is the Tibetan translation of his prayer. And what it is saying is, Jisi namka nebatang means as long as space remains. Right? As long as space remains, how long is space is going to remain? Infinitely, limitlessly, forever. Right? As long as space remains. As the second line goes, as long as sentient beings remain. Even if there is one sentient being left to help, I will remain with that person to help. See, that is the courage. I will remain until then. I will remain, or may I remain until then. And by remaining there, what am I going to do? I'm going to help them. I am going to help them to free from suffering. That is the prayer that he actually made in this Bodhisattva way of life. I think that is one of the most courageous prayer that anyone throughout the universe made this. That is why, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, actually he, honestly said that. He said, I am human being. I went through a lot of challenges in my life. Exactly, he did, right? As one leader of one nation when like our Tibetan nation went through so much trouble. So many things that went in Tibet. And when you were like, you are the leader, and all the people in that nation are struggling with this tremendous desperation. And like, how can you actually have this courage, right? And sometimes he said, I feel a little discouraged, like I feel like when sometimes this desperation sort of like coming to me, and like what should I do? What am I gonna do? Like that kind of thing. And he said in one of the teaching, he said, this prayer always helped him to lift his spirit up. Like whenever he has this kind of little bit of like doubt, or what do you call, something comes, and immediately he apply this prayer. Like this prayer in his back of his mind all the time, there to really actually to lift him up. Like you're almost going to fall, and then it is like this prayer comes, and it's like, you know what? As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, I will remain. See? Right? I will remain. And many times we don't have that courage. Right? We don't have that courage, like, I will remain. To remain with other people, to remain with yourself, to remain in existence, because there are so many struggles, so many challenges, right? There's so many challenges. There's actually one of my favorite prayer from the Lama Chöpa, which is the Guru Yoga practice, and it says, "Semjen re re chiya narmebe menang keba gyazu nego kya ningji migyo chanju chozume zundu parjin zobor chingi lobs." That is the prayer made may I achieve this joyful effort perfection. That's the prayer of that. And what kind of joyful effort, like perfection, is even if I had to remain in the lowest of the suffering, if there is the suffering exists like the hell, to benefit one sentient being, even if I had to remain in this like the lowest hell realm for 1 aeons, or even for more aeons, I will happily, joyfully, I will happily live there, if that living me in the hell can help other sentient beings. So may I have that kind of courageous, joyful effort. Like that is the prayer. Sometimes I personally, like when I feel little bit something, like His Holiness, pray as long as sentient beings remain, this prayer actually helped me. Like if I can help other sentient beings, if I'm able, if I'm free, even if I had to remain. And this is the prayer. I'm not saying I'm able to do that. Right? It is, I do this prayer, and this prayer, like, when you do this prayer, it actually helps you. It is like almost saying, I am not actually happy, but may I be happy, like that. It is like when you are not totally happy, but if you lift yours, spirit up to actually search for that happiness, then that itself is actually, help you to put in the state line, right? So that kind of courage, actually, we are talking about here. So that is what we call the courage of the Bodhisattva. So that courage of the Bodhisattva, so we are going to dedicate this workshop to learn, even like we don't have this full courage, but just if we start inspiring ourselves, like even just like, praying that in our daily sort of regular base. When I say praying doesn't need to, you have to, sit in your altar, right? Even you don't have to, like even you are going through such a, biggest challenges in your life. If you can remember to pray, I think that is the practice. That is something that we need, like we don't need to sit in folding hands or, those are if we have all the good conditions. But even we don't have those conditions. Even while you are driving, you have plenty of time to pray, right? Even you are such in a depression that you totally fell like into this hopelessness, dark place in your life, you still have a time to pray, right? You still have a time to pray and think, comparing to all other suffering, this is nothing. The purpose of my life is not to just help this person. Purpose of my life. And you just kind of like, sometimes you can, talk to yourself like sort of, sometimes peacefully, sometimes wrathfully to yourself. Peacefully you can pat, like, you can do it. You can take these, challenges. And wrathfully, sort of like it, you can just say, shame on you. What is wrong with you? You think this is the biggest, largest problem in the whole world. And you should be able to say, no, this is not the biggest, largest problem. You are not in a destitute. We should sometimes wrathfully, like how, like the talented mother, disciplines their child. Like you have to approach both way, right? Peacefully, wrathfully. But when you are doing this, like sometimes you have to stand up for yourself and say, hey, that's wrong. Why you are making such a big deal. And this is not a big deal. And really, if we look into our life, there are not much, right? There's not much life-threatening. Like many of our problems are just simply created by our mind making all these different stories and then telling ourselves that, you are not worthy, you are bad, you are such an unworthy person. But I don't think other people are saying that or thinking that. We made this story up. So the courageous is actually, when we feel that way, we need to put this courageous prayer. Even, just make an habit of, like, as long as sentient beings remain, as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Like that kind of simple prayer, if you can lift yourself up, I think that is what we are learning here. So, the purpose of learning the courage of the Bodhisattva is something like how Master Shantideva, help us to really deal with the day-to-day life problem and challenges, like we should bring that Bodhisattva courage. And, one step at a time, right? We don't have to really go really far into the, this journey of enlightenment. Even like sometimes I say journey of the enlightenment is not really far. It's also another story that we made in our mind, thinking that that's so far. So if you think that is so far, yes, it is gonna be so far, right? If you think it is just close here, then it is just close here. We don't really have to go so far. You just need to take this one step of courage. If you take this one step of courage, everything is going to be so easy. Everything is becoming so difficult because lack of this courage. So this courage of the Bodhisattva is something we need to really learn, and like how to bring that courage into our daily life. And we are going to use Master Shantideva's, chapter. Actually, all the teaching is actually based on that. But we already sort of like, I don't know, all of you had this teaching before with but I taught this like a long time ago, and this kind of like, I don't know, somewhere it was very interesting. I was looking at the note that this is my translation from, I think the date that they put here is January 2004. And, it's a chapter 9, and I was translating. I think we did this workshop in January 2004. And I left it at this one verses, and like after that, I don't see any translation of that. And where I left is the verses 33. And it says, just as those who travel on the road hold a place to take a rest, likewise, those who travel in the samsara hold rebirth as a place of rest. And then I finished that word with the rest. And I was thinking, wow, what a coincidence. In January 2004, I translated that. And then after that word translate, I said, let's just be rest. And it is almost like we rested. Like 2005, 6, 7. Now it's like, 2012, and we are just kind of waking up. And not we are, I am waking up. So it's funny, like, sometimes just coincidence. But anyway, we are going to use this chapter 8. Like the Bodhisattva way of life has 10 chapters. And the first chapter, actually, Master Shantideva talks about benefit of the bodhicitta, and then there's like a confession, like how to purify, how, like if you make a mistake, like then how to really confess, how to really purify, how to really deal with the mistake that is done. Sort of like, if you have done something bad, then how can you deal with it without feeling guilt? I think that is the second chapter that he actually talks about. And then, how to take a bodhisattva vow. And then, like those kind of chapters, I think everything is, all the chapter like is done. So I'm not going to repeat it. So I'm thinking that maybe we will make, because I did the whole translation of all this until here, like chapter 8, verses 33. Like I have been looking at other translation, and then just kind of like, not just totally, based on one translation. I was using many translation, and also looking at the Tibetan word that is translated from Sanskrit. And then just kind of like some of the things, like for example, I will give you an example. In one of the chapters in the previous chapter, like Shantideva actually used this metaphor of saying anything's happen in your life, like when the challenges, the storm comes, and how to deal with that. And then many times he used this metaphor of saying there's a shingshin nebarcha. At that time you remain like, there's a few translations, shing. You remain like a shing. Shing is a Tibetan word, and in one translation I saw you remain like a log. Okay, log. And then another translation it's you remain like a wood. So and actually it is true. Tibetan shing. Shing means wood or log or a tree. So I was thinking that maybe sometime you need a little bit in-depth, like language kind of thing, like where it is really applying. So I think when Shantideva was saying, there's a shingshin nebarcha, at that time you learn how to remain, or you remain like the tree. Wood is dead kind of thing. Log is also dead. So I don't think he was, giving example of saying you just remain like a dead. Right? Don't do anything. Just So I think tree is what it is saying is you are deep rooted, right? You are deep rooted into the ground. So you are it is like you're actually grounded. So you are grounded. You are totally grounded. So you are so stable, like a stability. And then even the wind comes, it will move. But then, like trees, kind of like when like any, like a wind come, it's a nice, right? When the wind hits the leaf of the tree, it's a song. Sort of like, sometimes it is like the tree is dancing, right, in the wind. So it is kind of like it's actually a fun and alive. So you are more alive. You are more sort of like you just kind of like more dancing in the space kind of thing. So there are many verses actually keep saying, at that time you remain like the tree. At that time you remain like the tree. Any different occasion, different circumstances comes in our life, you should remain. So that's just an example. So I changed some of the word from other people's, like there are 5 or translations in the Bodhisattva way of life, and even if you Google it on internet, I see a lot of different translation. So at that time, I wasn't able to go with one translation, so I was thinking, why not? I will just put compile sort of all things together. So. Which we did, and I think we have all the recordings of all the previous chapters, and someday maybe we can put it, and if you want to study, so we can make it available. So, and I'm thinking, we left there on the chapter, chapter 8, verses 33. So today I'm just kind of going to go with the general Bodhisattva courage, right? The courage of the Bodhisattva, and then I will, from next workshop this year, we are going to focus on the just one topic, called the courage of the Bodhisattva. That's like our like a spiritual theme of this year, that where we are going to focus. And I want to keep this kind of like every year we have something to focus. And last year, our focus was purification, and where actually we did the Vajrasattva retreat, right, at the Water Song Emaho retreat. And we know many of us actually went through a lot of purification too. Right? 2011 was many purification for many peoples in many, their lifestyle, and just a lot of things changing, and a lot of things actually kind of manifested transformation. Even I don't know, maybe it's not a coincidence either. Our last year theme was purification, and interestingly, our Emaho center in South Scottsdale was kind of transformed, dissolved. Maybe somewhere, I think, it's always a new beginning, right? At a purification, when you purify something, like when you are washing something, the dirt comes up. And you need that. I think in our life, we need that too. In our life, when we are when we are cleansing something or cleaning something, things comes up. We should expect that. So, in some level, when we went through all this purification, there was some things, and then that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing that we washed it away. And then when you washed away, when you purified, when you are cleansed, then what happened is it is just sort of like a new beginning. So I think maybe this is part of our sort of like a new cycle, new beginning of. So when the new beginning comes, I think courage is necessary too, right? We need a courage when we begin something, because when we begin with the courage, with this attitude of never giving up. I am here to help myself. I'm here to help. all the people in this big universe, then it is like your mind is like actually like opening. Your mind is really opening and saying that, you know what, I am really I have this great purpose. It's like, in our life, we are looking always for the purpose, right? The purposeless life is just not it's like a worthless life. So we need a purpose, and yes, we do have a purpose. Each and every one of us have a purpose. We are here in this world with this great purpose. And this great purpose, actually, each of us have this condition. And we have everything, actually. Like I always say, like we live in this, country, which is actually free to do anything. That's like a freedom, I think. And like many other species, many other human beings don't have this kind of freedom. They live in a very, very strict or sort of like, a different kind of circumstances. Even though they want to, they don't have. So if you look into even here, we have this freedom and we have all the necessities that we need, actually. We do. And sometimes we complain in our life, I don't have that, I don't have this, And when we compare, yes, of course, we will always feel very empty, very poor. Like so-and-so has a very nice car. So-and-so has a very big house, nice house. And, then we always look, poor me. Look, I don't have that. I don't have this. And then our mind is always into that, this game that I don't have this and I don't have that. And then when your mind is into that mode, what happened? You don't have anything. And then, yes, my life is empty. I don't have anything. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares about me. Nobody. I don't own anything. My whole life is, see how it does. And all these things that we say to ourselves, is that true? It's not true. That's not true. We are lying to ourselves. We have everything we need, actually. And the real thing, the real problem is we don't have a problem of not having. We have a problem of having more than we need, right? That's our problem. Sometimes we don't understand that. And we want to, sort of like give excuse saying, you know what, I'm not ready. I need this, I need that, I need, sort of like, but those are not really true. So like if we, like really learn this and then see, like, yes, I have all this condition and I have a greatest purpose. And our greatest purpose is not only to help ourselves. Even if I cannot help this life, I will pray, next life. And then if even not next life, next, So this is like, I just saw this one bumper sticker, born again Buddhist. And it says born again Buddhist, like, rebirth. One out like, born again and again and again to help other sentient beings. So, Bodhisattvas are the born-again Buddhist. Yes. So we have all this condition and we have this great purpose. So we will use this, and not let ourselves waste all this condition that we have got, right? So if we can just put one simple practice like courage of the Bodhisattva in our daily life, I think that will really help us. It is not, when we are doing all this applying courageous of the Bodhisattva into our life, we are not teaching about like or learning to become like the fundamentalist Buddhist or anything. Don't think don't put that as your, what do you call, that's not your purpose. It is like, I think I was, reading the stories of the Buddha, And one time actually Buddha actually said that, I don't want you to go and say, teach other people to become the follower of the Buddha. If people come and ask you, what does Buddha teach? Then say this. Don't just, voluntarily go and say, hey, I want to save you from hell. So, become a Buddhist. Then you will become, you will go to the Buddhist heaven. What if the person says, I don't want to go to Buddhist heaven, I want to go to Christian heaven. Right? Actually, one time I said this, I was in the, aeroplane, somebody, going to Utah. Somebody was, next to me, and then the person was very, very insisting, teaching me, about other religion. And then he was actually telling me that I should consider, learning more. And at the end, sort of like he said, I want to save you, and like, save me from what? He wants to save me from going to hell. And then I said, if I don't go to, hell, then where do I go? You will go to heaven. And there was so many talks that he was keep saying, and it's just funny, and he said, what if? He was so serious, like, what if? You die, eventually everybody has to die, and you die, and you are in the gate of the heaven, that he was saying. And there, you're waiting there. And then, Jesus shows up to you. And he looked at you and he said, hey, you didn't worship me for all your life. Now I'm not going to take you. So, Jesus will close the door of the heaven. And you don't have a place to go. And then you will go straight to the hell. And then I was like listening. I let him say everything what he has to say. And then I said, what if Jesus didn't show up? and he was like, no, that will never happen. But I say, you are basing all the teachings on what if. And what if I say what if? You keep telling me what if, you just keep telling me what if. And now I'm, talking back to you by saying what if. What if he doesn't show up? I will be very disappointed. So, and then, how we left sort of like in a very harmonious, peaceful way. And I said, to him, it's very kind of you that you have this intention to save me. And, I said, what? Whatever I do, I will go to Buddhist heaven. And whatever you do, you will go to Christian heaven. So that's it. I will go to Buddhist heaven, you go to, Christian heaven, so we are equal. And I think you don't want to go to Buddhist heaven, and I don't want to go to Christian heaven. So I said, we are even now. So I said, are you okay with that? And, he was, yeah. He's kind of like, this is fine. But then he was very insisting, as I said. He gave me his card, just in case you change your mind. Call me. I will teach you everything about how to go to Christian heaven. So, sometimes it is just a story like that. So anyway, so we are going to learn the Bodhisattva Way of Life, Chapter 8. So to begin that, today is just an introduction. And let us actually do the first preliminary. this preliminary practice is maybe you don't have the chanting, but I will do the honoring the Buddha Shakyamuni, and really just like when we say honoring Buddha Shakyamuni, sometimes it feels like and it looks like you are honoring somebody else, but ultimately, when we honor the Shakyamuni Buddha, we are honoring our own enlightenment. Okay, so this is like not really going out in the into the outside world and honoring the enlightened being, but the outside enlightened beings are reflection of your own enlightenment. So when we do the honoring of the Buddha, what we do is actually we are honoring our own enlightenment, our own Buddha nature, our own sort of like it is saying, yes, I have this Buddha nature and I have this potential. I can actually able to, it's grammatically wrong, right? I can achieve, right? I can actually achieve my own enlightenment. My Buddha nature is in there and I am really honoring it. And then just take this time. When I do this honoring Buddha chanting, just, even if you don't know how to chant, you can, if you know how to chant, you can do. If you don't know how to chant this in Tibetan, so you just kind of, honor it from your heart. Okay, so take this time as honoring your own enlightenment. And why you're honoring this is also make it sort of more Mahayana, Bodhisattva thing, that another great purpose. So you are honoring this. You are not only honoring your own enlightenment, you are honoring all other sentient beings' enlightenment. And you want to help everybody to really reach that enlightenment, reach that quality, reach that Buddha nature. Okay?